Greetings, friends. My name is John Gabriel, and this is the New Calculus channel. So, as most of you might know, I have been censored from many internet forums and just recently from LinkedIn because academics hate being corrected and they hate being shown that they've been ignorant and wrong. So, this theorem that I'm showing, that you see in front of you, this geometric theorem, which I'll explain in a moment, was alluded to in a very vague way by some writer of a calculus textbook, and he didn't actually realize its significance because he talked about it in the context of the Lipschitz condition, which is a bunch of garbage and doesn't really have any useful application whatsoever. But it's hated because it shows that neither Newton nor Leibniz nor any of the previous academics actually understood calculus, because if they had, they wouldn't have all this bogus theory of epsilon deltas and limits and what have you in the mainstream calculus, because calculus can be done without infinity, infinitesimals, or the flawed theory of limits. Limits have no place in the calculation of the derivative or the definite integral. And this theorem here defines both the derivative and the definite integral. I'll say this, that the guy who actually came close to realizing that this theorem is one of the most important, but he didn't, because he didn't state it as such. He just said it's a difference in slopes between the tangent line and the secant line, which is true. He didn't actually make the connection to the integral. And nobody else before me did. Now, some have thought that possibly Laplace could have done that. As you see on this side here, there'll be some comments about that, but it's not true. No one before me actually realized these facts. So on this side here, there's a comment that has been going for a long time, and this commenter here says, looking at one of the first documents, blah, 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 he's trying to say that the formula doesn't result in a universal solution, but it does. And the triangles are not arbitrary, by the way. They work for any function, and I'll show you why that is the case in a few moments, and you'll see that he's calling me a crank, but the obvious fact is that he's a crank and these foolish people who voted him up. But Reddit is, of course, one of those mainstream sites where they all get together and, gang up on anybody who doesn't have the same bullshit ideas as they do. So I'm going to close that window now, and I'm going to show you very quickly how the theorem works. Okay, so this is a demonstration of the theorem with a curve, this particular function, a quarter x squared, okay? And it works for any h, not equal to 0. And in my document, which I'll provide also in the detail section and also a link to this applet, you'll see the proof that this here is in fact the derivative plus the difference in slopes, okay? And why did the mainstream academics hate this theorem so much? Well, the reason they hate it is that it exposes their grand ignorance, okay? It has nothing to do with the concept of infinity, infinitesimals, or the relative limit theory. And Q of xh is simply the difference in the slope of this red secant line, which is a non-parallel secant line, and the slope of the tangent line. That's all it is. And you can literally throw that away because it's just a difference, okay? But now, the problem in mainstream calculus is that they, talk about something going to 0, the limit of this going to 0, which is absolute nonsense. Nothing goes to 0, nothing vanishes, there are no infinitesimals, infinity is not required, and of course, neither is a theory of limits. Okay, so now, we can look at this and see how it works, even if we change h, or if we change this position, which is the point of tangency. Okay, now if you want to have a different function, that's also possible. Okay, all you do is you come up here and you can show that it's true, let's say for e to the x. Okay, e to the x. Okay, now notice you've got two similar triangles down here, and you'll get the same story for e to the x or for any other function, right? So here we go again. There are the similar triangles, and of course you can move this about, and you'll see that it always results in the derivative plus a difference, which you can neatly throw away. Okay, now you cannot have h equals to 0 because then the finite difference quotient is undefined, and the finite difference quotient which you see in the identity over here is always the slope of this non-parallel secant line. But it's pretty obvious that the difference in this slope and the tangent line will be given by this expression here, because in order to calculate the tangent line slope, we also have a finite difference, but there's no such thing as an instantaneous rate or an instantaneous derivative, as you know, that fool Professor Gilbert Strang from MIT, or that other idiot Jackie Hazinger, or Don Redmond, or any of those other fools continually go on about on Sci.Math and other sites like Quora and what have you. So nothing like that applies. All that is absolute nonsense. It's an embarrassment, a severe embarrassment to mainstream academics that they never realized these facts, because neither Newton nor Leibniz nor anyone before me knew them. And here comes the most embarrassing part, is this, that the ancient Greeks had all the mathematics necessary to define both the derivative and the definite integral, because it's all based on geometry. And in another file where I show how your mainstream calculus is fixed by this identity, you see how it works in definite integration. That's all I wanted to discuss in this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you've learned something, and I hope that you'll spread the news that I am being censored. If YouTube decides to block me, it won't be the first time. They've done it twice before, but all these videos do get backed up onto Library TV, which is another site. And so hopefully, if I am censored on YouTube at any time in the future, it's pretty possible, then you can still find them on Library TV. So once again, subscribe to my channel, spread the news. I'm doing this for future mathematicians and students. And also download my free ebook, which is the most important mathematics book written on the new calculus, to see a rigorous formulation. By the way, I realized this identity because I had first formulated the new calculus. I wouldn't have realized it otherwise. I hadn't read that Lipschitz condition in the calculus textbook I was referring to earlier. This is something I discovered on my own. So, and of course, neither Laplace nor Professor Norman Wilderberger, who claims that Laplace had done something similar, that's total nonsense. He hasn't. And there's no proof of that. Of course, mainstream academics just want to censor me, libel me, and attribute mental diseases to me so that you do not understand and realize these wonderful new facts that I'm revealing to you. I do know better, and I hope that once you study my work, you'll realize that I do know better than everybody else. And coming from me, that's not a cranky statement. It's not an arrogant statement. It's not a belief. It's fact. I'm John Gabriel, and this is a New Calculus channel. Till next time, goodbye.